Thank you all so much for being with us tonight. We are excited to have you all as we discuss disability issues.
I'm sorry, I just need to be made co-host real quick so I can spotlight.
Absolutely, we will do it.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks all for holding on with us as we go to technical issues. We are now live streaming on Facebook, where we've got a lot of folks who plan to watch us there as well. The link for closed captioning, again, is in the answered section of the Q&A part. So if you scroll to the bottom of your screen, you can see Q&A. If you click on answered questions, you'll be able to see the link for live captioning. At any time, you should be able to see our interpreters as well as the primary speaker on the screen. If you have any questions for the candidates or having any other kinds of difficulties, feel free to put them in the Q&A and I'll get to you as soon as possible. And now, to really get the night going, it is my great pleasure to turn things over to Sharon and Connor Cummings.
Thank you, and welcome to the 2021 Virginia Candidate Forum Series on developmental disability issues. We are happy to have candidates running from the House District 43, 44, and 45. These forums are designed for you from the comfort of your home. We want to thank the ARC of Northern Virginia, the Autism Society of Northern Virginia, CRI, Rev Up Virginia, and special thanks to the Virginia Board for People with Disabilities Training Alumni Association for supplying the interpreters and the captioner. Also, a thank you to each and every one of you watching live now or watching it taped at a later date. Now, I am proud to introduce my son, Connor, who will say a few words on the logistics, and then the amazing Lucy Beadnell, who is our moderator for the 90 minutes.
My name is Connor Cummings. I am a self-advocate and proud to be autistic. Please remember, this is a sensory-friendly forum. This is not a debate. Talk about what you can and have done for individuals and families with disabilities. Share your disability experience and plans. If elected, please concentrate only on you. Let the other candidates concentrate on themselves while you talk all about you. No speaking at the same time or interrupting each other. No raised voices. Thank you for responding to sensory-friendly Thank you for respecting the sensory-friendly instructions. This is your opportunity to answer our questions and to hear our stories, not just today, but every day you are in office. To all of you watching, these candidates are here because they care. Thank you for being here to respectfully listen to all candidates. This is our opportunity to hear their disability platform, to help ensure that our representatives include us in your decision-making, not just mentioned, but the seat at the table. November 2nd or prior, you can vote for the candidates you feel is best for your needs and supports. Remember to always vote. Our voice matters. Now here's Lucy to start the questions.
Thank you so much, Connor. And anytime you would like to come to my house to lay down those same ground rules, you are more than welcome to do so.
Thanks
right.
so much.
I'm not joking. All right, so we will start getting things turned over to our candidates now. So tonight from the 43rd District, we have candidate Brenton Hammond and incumbent Delegate Mark Sickles. From the 44th District, we have candidate Richard Hayden and incumbent Delegate Paul Kriezek. And from the 45th District, we have candidate J.D. Maddox. Candidate Elizabeth Bennett Parker, also running to represent the 45th District, could not join us tonight, but I would like to note she was at our primary forum on disability issues this spring, and I'm happy to send around a link to that forum as I send out the follow-up to this in case you would like to hear her speaking directly as well about disability policy. The last reminder I'll give as we get going is that the ARC of Northern Virginia and our partners tonight are all 501c3 organizations. That means we're nonprofits, so we don't endorse specific campaigns, parties, or candidates. We're here all tonight to learn and to be kind. It's your chance in the Q&A to share your story with people being elected to office, and for them to hear from you and learn, and for you to learn from them as they talk about their policy priorities. We're so excited for this exchange of information. Again, if you have questions anytime, put them in the Q&A box. We'll turn things over to our candidates, and like always, with every question, each candidate will get a chance to answer the question. We'll start with introductory remarks where all candidates can talk about themselves and any background in disability policy they have or disability issues in their personal life. Then we'll move on to some questions we shared with candidates in advance and questions you all put in the Q&A. And as we get close to the end of our time, we'll give all of our candidates a few minutes to give a closing statement. We ask that our candidates aim to keep each of their answers to about 2 minutes. So we're a friendly group and we won't time or cut anybody off. We just want to make sure we have the maximum opportunity to hear from everybody. Thank you all so much for being with us, and we'll rotate so each candidate gets a chance to answer questions first and last. First up will be candidate Brenton Hammond. We'll go ahead and put you on the spotlight, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Lucy and Sharon. I want to thank the ARC of Northern Virginia, as well as the Autism Society, and all of the partners that made tonight possible, to include the interpreters and all those who are participating. Most importantly, this is an awesome opportunity when you see all of the candidates here for such an important topic. It shows that we put Virginia first and politics second. So thank you so much for having me. My name is Brenton Hammond. I'm running for the House of Delegates in District 43 because I believe in servant leadership. I believe in solutions. And when we talk about the needs of the developmental disability community, they need an advocate and a fighter that's here to get solutions, listen to them, not think that I know more than they do, and then produce results. So I look forward to getting into some personal experiences of my own. I look forward to also learning things tonight. I think it's important that we learn and don't think we have all the answers. So I'm excited to be here. I look forward to a fruitful discussion tonight, and thank you.
Thanks so much for being with us. Next, we'll turn things over to Delegate Mark Sickles. And Delegate Sickles, if you could start quickly by just giving us a little bit of a geographic layout of the district so folks know the 43rd really well before you give your introduction, we'd be so grateful.
Lucy, you broke up a little bit there, but I think you said give a little bit of my background. Is that what you said?
Yeah, so if you could tell us kind of where exactly the 43rd is, so that folks know that, as well as your introduction, that'd be great.
It's good to be with you again. Thank you for holding this forum. Extraordinarily important topic. The 43rd district is in South Fairfax County. It follows the Telegraph Road corridor largely from the Beltway down to almost Prince William County on Route 1. It was kind of gerrymandered 10 years ago to be more of a Democratic district than it was before. It was a Democratic leaning district at the time, and it was served for many, many years by Gladys Keating. One of the things that I did when I was younger was serve as her legislative assistant, and that was my first experience in Richmond. When I got elected, I did not know these issues. I learned what a waiver was. I learned that we needed to close our training centers. I worked with ARC. I've got a picture in my office in Richmond of a life like yours with one of our good Virginia citizens. It's been hard. It's expensive, and we're relatively a low tax state, and we try to put as much as we can into this. It's a lot of lip service goes to this disability subject. And in the last little bit, we've been trying to up our game some. I know the rates are not adequate to actually implement some of the waivers. So we did go back, as you know, on to July 1 to increase the rates by 12.5%. And that is good through the end of the fiscal year on June 30th. It's very important to us. Everybody talks about it, and we have a limited budget. We have to pay for K through 12, our largest expense. Our healthcare is 23% of our budget. This is a big share of that. And we all want to do better. We have a mental health crisis in the state. We have an opioid crisis. in the healthcare space. We have workforce issues, as you know. There are other things for people to do that make the kind of money we make, and we need to develop pathways, workforce pathways for people who want to be in this human service business. So I thank you for your support in the past. I want to work with you to continue to meet these challenges. We have 1,000 waivers almost in this year's budget. It is sad that we have 1,000 almost every year, 800 to 1,200 a year, and we have still an emergency list of 3,000 that doesn't seem to go down. You know, more children are being born with problems. The autism epidemic is still raging there, and so I just look forward to continue to work with ARC and all your allies across the service providing community to get our home and community-based services to the level they should be. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for being here. Now we'll turn things over to candidate Richard Hayden, who is running to represent the 44th District. Candidate Hayden, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Lucy. My name is Richard Hayden, and I'm the Republican candidate for the House of Delegates in the 44th District. And thank you to Sharon and to Connor, too, for the great introduction. They did a great job. And I'd like to say that, you know, this is the most important issue, what you're confronting here, both with ARC of Northern Virginia and the Northern Virginia Autism Society. And it's something that has been neglected and is in a crisis mode. These are the most vulnerable members of our community, people with intellectual, both children and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And we have an obligation, a moral obligation to care for them. And we haven't met that obligation in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And it's about time that we do that. And there's a number of ways to do that. I got introduced to mental health issues back when I was in high school. I participated in Geraldo Rivera's one-to-one program, which was in Central Park, New York. And you go over there one day. I went with my older sister who was in college. And we got paired up with someone with special needs. Well, one year it was raining, and they took us by bus, by police escort, to different facilities around New York City, in and around New York City. We went to a place called Willowbrook in Staten Island. And I don't know if anybody here has ever heard of Willowbrook, but it was a notorious institution. It was a warehouse for those people with special needs. And when we got there, I got paired with a young woman, a young girl, 10 or 11 years old, and she had Down syndrome. So they took us with the most functioning people with special needs there. That's who they paired us with. And this young girl, we went to the playground, we played on the swings. She had speech difficulties, but otherwise she was very aware, very alert. And amazingly, after we went to the swings, she took me by the hand into the staff cafeteria. And when we got into the cafeteria, she wanted to get an ice cream. And I went up to the cash register to pay for the ice cream. And the staff member said, "You can't be in here with her." So what do you mean I can't be in here with her? I said, "You can't be in here. She's not allowed to be in here. And you can't have ice cream." I said, "I'm buying 2 ice creams." And we bought the 2 ice creams and we went out and enjoyed the ice creams. But it opened my eyes to what a type of facility this was, how these people were discriminated against and how poorly they were treated. This young girl didn't deserve to be in a place like Willowbrook. And if she had been in a community-based program, she would have been functioning at a much higher level. And hopefully she did after that, because one of the things that this whole program was about, and this goes back, I hate to give my age away, but it goes back 40 years ago. And it was an issue back then in the 70s, in the mid to late 70s, and it's still an issue today. And it's not just in the Commonwealth of Virginia, who is now ranked like 39th in the United States for treatment of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, but it's across the country. Everybody has an issue with this. So, you know, I participated with my church fraternal organization, the Knights of Columbus, through our COVAR program. We donate regularly to, in full disclosure, to ARC. We've donated for vans for ARC of Harrisonburg and Rockingham. Last year, I think it was close to $500,000 the Virginia Knights of Columbus donated to these programs, to both ARC and to Autism Society and other. We also would give out grants for other programs. But, you know, I'm blessed. You know, they say to whom much is given, much is expected. And I've been blessed with a lot, and I want to give back. And this is one of the areas that I want to give back as a candidate, as your delegate in Richmond come January. So again, Richard Hayden in the 44th District. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us tonight. And now we'll turn things over to Delegate Paul Kriezek, who represents the 44th District now. And Delegate Kriezek, if you two could give a little bit of an overview of the location of the district as you give your introductory remarks, we'd be so grateful.
Sure. Thank you, Lucy. My name is Paul Kriezek, and I represent the 44th District. That district right now, and we're this is the we're in the decennial redistricting process. So come next year, it'll be a different district. Excuse me. And it goes along the banks of the Potomac River from Marlin, a little bit south of Bellevue, all the way down to the almost to the Mount Vernon plantation. And it includes the new Mount Vernon library, which is a beautiful library if you ever get a chance to see it. And it comes around, goes from there, kind of meanders a little bit through a precinct on its way to Route 1, and then up Jeff Todd Way along the border of Fort Belvoir all the way to Hayfield, right around where the elementary school and the high school and junior high school are across the street, and then down Telegraph Road, and it has that Hayfield precinct, Hayfield Farms to Lake Devereaux, and then it comes back towards the river, across the Huntley Meadows Park, and up Route 1, both sides of Route 1, to Beacon Hill area up there, and then over to Bellhaven, and it really encompasses pretty much majority of the West Potomac High School pyramid and the Mount Vernon High School pyramid, though there are Delegate Sickles has some of that as well, and Delegate Tran has some too. For the most part, that it's a pretty compact district. It's not really that gerrymandered, and it really does include communities of interest. So if anybody on the commission is listening, I would say keep the district out like it is. It's a good district, and I've been very proud to represent it for 6 years now in the General Assembly. And it's where I went to that high school, West Potomac. My daughter graduated a couple years ago. She's now in college. And I've always made it a priority to advocate for the disability community, and especially to eliminate discrimination and promote representation. And I want to thank you, Lucy, and the ARC. I want to also Connor and Sharon. Connor is a big star, and he's an advocate. He's been a big advocate for autistic adults, especially, and young people. He has Connor's Law from 2015, right before I joined the General Assembly. He was able to get that law passed, which required adults to continue to financially support their adult children. And I think we really owe him a gratitude, and thank you, Connor, for all the work you do and to continue to do and to keep us grounded. In this 2020 session, I was very happy to introduce House Bill 333, which sought to eliminate the exclusion in the Virginia Minimum Wage Act for persons whose earning capacity is impaired by physical deficiency, mental illness, or intellectual disability. And that language that's used in the code is pretty discriminatory to Virginians with disabilities, and it was in there for many, many years, decades, frankly. I think since I think it was the 70s, and we finally got it out. Fair pay allows people to become self-sufficient and financially independent. And I was proud to see my bill was included in the full minimum wage increase omnibus bill that we passed. And a lot of that was due to Chairman Sickles' his leadership as well. And I have a long history of partnering with ARC of Virginia, also with Melwood and the Virginia Association of People Supporting Employment First on disability issues. There's a number of other bills that I've worked on, and being on a House Appropriations, also helping to appropriate money to be supportive as well. And I look forward to this upcoming session. I've already started working on some legislation, and one of them is to create a dedicated disability secretary or possibly an advisor, but I really want it to be at a secretarial level within the governor's administration, and similar to what existed during Governor Kane's administration to promote disability rights. So that's one of my bills, and I hope that that we can get that passed, and with your help and everybody that's listening, please help me advocate for that. I think that would be really helpful and supportive. So I'm here. This is I've participated in these forums for I think 6 years now, and I learn a lot through these forums, and I appreciate the hard work that the 501c3s like the ARC are doing to fight for the disabled rights. And one of the things I want to say is that I think that this coming up, we have gotten past hopefully we're getting past COVID, and we'll be in our second year of leadership with the House Democrats under Speaker Eileen Fillercorn's leadership. And we've already made a lot of positive strides that have really languished prior to us taking over the leadership with the Democratic Party. And you're going to see a lot more action going forward. And I think you can't go wrong to vote Democrat on November 2nd. So thank you very much for having us.
Thanks so much for joining us, Delegate Kriezek. And now we'll turn things over last for introductory remarks to candidate JD Maddox, vying to represent the 45th district. And I'll note that the incumbent for the 45th district was unseated during the primaries. So JD, if you're comfortable, I'll have you give the geographic overview of the district before you give your opening remarks.
Absolutely. I'm JD Maddox. I'm running for state delegate in the 45th district, which geographically runs from essentially 23rd Street in Arlington, all the way south through Old Town Alexandria, down to Bellhaven in Fairfax County. So it actually bridges 3 different counties, so to speak. And it is an absolutely beautiful area along the Potomac River. And we really enjoy an incredible diversity of people, a diversity of opportunities. And I'm really proud to be from Alexandria. I've been here for 21 years. And I'm eager to participate at the state level in politics. I am a former CIA branch chief, and I'm a former US Army Special Operations soldier. I'm also a small business owner here in Alexandria and a professor at George Mason University. As I've participated in the military and in the intelligence community, I have a lot of friends who have suffered from disabilities as a result of trauma. Either they've been severely injured in combat, or they've been severely injured in their work, or they've suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder. And not just the kind of PTSD that gives you nightmares and keeps you from enjoying Thanksgiving dinner, really the PTSD that keeps you from participating in life, keeps you from participating as a normal participant in society. And 2 years ago, a very dear friend of mine, we called each other battle buddies because we joined the Army at the same time back in 1996. And we were fast friends and friends for life. But 2 years ago, he died as a result of the combination of a terrible blood disease, but also severe PTSD. And that PTSD really was a disability. It was a disease that kept him from advocating for himself. It kept him from speaking up about the disease, the blood disease that he was suffering from. And as a result, he did not receive the kind of care, the medical care that he should have gotten. So to see my battle buddy die as a result of that disability was profoundly motivating to me. And you have an advocate in JD Maddox when I go to Richmond like no other, I think. Finally, I'd just like to thank Connor for speaking up and for being such a motivator. I think that first of all, you're a real someone for our kids to follow, but I also just love the rules that you opened up with. I wish all of these debates and all of these forums would be opened up with similar rules, and that we could all use these rules as candidates and as delegates down the road. So thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us. And now we'll turn it over to candidates again, to answer a question that we sent in advance. And this first question is going to be for Delegate Sickles, and we'll be asking about something we learned during the pandemic that really we should have known before, and that is accessibility bloomed in a time where many folks with developmental disabilities did not have to travel to Richmond to participate in a commission or give testimony, that they could stay on mute or turn cameras off or walk away if they were overwhelmed in a sensory fashion. We saw democratic participation and the ability to access services grow greatly. So we would love your thoughts on how we keep that best of the pandemic, if you'll allow us the phrase, and make sure that virtual access to government and to services continue.
Absolutely need to continue this success, maybe a little bit of accidental success. We had a lot of providers who did not, or payers that did not want to pay providers for telehealth services. We're going to have a bill to revamp telehealth just generally. And I think in this whole disability area, as you said, Lucy, it will be extraordinarily useful. I think there's a lot of details that need to be worked out with regard to how it works, but it's opened up our democracy generally in the General Assembly. We had our whole session last winter in the House online, and while it has some downsides to doing that, the upside is people did not have to get up at 4:30 in the morning to come to a 7:30 a.m. Subcommittee meeting. And so lots of people tuned in. I got more response from constituents than ever before because it was so accessible. And that works in this disability area. So I'm happy it's worked, and we need to take the best elements of it and make sure we can continue.
Thank you so much. We would certainly love to see that happen. And now we'll turn things over to candidate Richard Hayden for the same question about how we maintain access to virtual participation in government and service access for folks with disabilities going forward.
Great. Thank you, Lucy. Yes, I think we should have virtual connectivity continue with this. I don't think it should be across the board 100%. I think there's a lot to be said for in-person interactions that go on. But I think for those who need it and for those who it would work best for at those particular times, I think it's essential. But like I said, I think there's a lot to be said for interpersonal contact when we can do that, and when there can be meaningful interactions. So I certainly support it, and I'd like to see maximum participation by everyone. And I think it could be kind of a hybrid thing. And I certainly believe that when the Republicans regain the House and we take over the governor and the lieutenant governor and attorney general positions, we'll be happy to accommodate everyone as best we can. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we'll turn things over now to Delegate Kriezek with the same question about maintaining virtual access.
Yeah, the pandemic really changed a lot of the way we engage with the world. But it's shown that, our society has the capability to adapt and to suit the needs of everybody in as much as possible. And if there's a will to do so, and we certainly had that. Our leadership in the General Assembly reacted quite quickly and was able to protect the public and the delegates and the senators as well. They did a little bit different system, but in the House of Delegates, we met during the height of the pandemic. We met virtually, just as we are right now. And we were able to pass a lot of bills. We were able to get rid of the death penalty and things like that virtually. So it worked. And now that we've returned, we've been able to do, as my opponent says, the hybrid model, which I also think is the best way forward, as much as we can. As long as the pandemic doesn't get worse and we have to go virtual again. But I think this hybrid model is fabulous, and we've been doing that. I'm the chair of a subcommittee that's been meeting all summer, and I've been using the hybrid model. And so sometimes it's folks who can't, who are in other states, even in California or something like that. They're able to testify online. We're able to. We have lots of TV monitors across the committee room. So the members, if there's a few members that are down that can't make it, they can be on a monitor, and then the witnesses and people who are testifying are on the monitors. There's a give and take. There's questions and answers. It's just like being there, really. And as you say, if it does get overheated or too much sensory overload, the person on the monitor can easily just mute and turn it off, which you can't do if you're there live. So it is very friendly, I think, for that in that respect. And I found that the public had much more access. We had more people watching us than ever. And we, some of those rooms, we're still in the old building. It's the building between, it's the Pocahontas building, but it's a temporary abode for the General Assembly until we get into the new General Assembly building that's under construction now, which I think will be done in a couple of years. But that building is going to be really wired up really well with all the high tech abilities and lots of screens and everything. So I think, and I know that they've been listening to the disability community and making sure that they've got everything in there for the future. So that's good. But right now we're in an older building that really wasn't made for the General Assembly, but it's going to be great. And it already, we've already doing it. And, I'm fully supportive of continuing to utilize this hybrid testimony method going forward, and virtual meetings when necessary and for those who request it. And I've been meeting constituents that way too. A lot of people prefer to do that. Sometimes I meet them in their gardens. Sometimes they come to my house too. But this is the future, and I'm glad we have this capability. One of the things we've had to do, of course, some parts of Virginia don't have the same internet connectivity that we do here in Northern Virginia. And so we have been working very diligently, and in our appropriations committee, we've appropriated hundreds of millions of dollars to get broadband throughout the Commonwealth. And I think, within 2 years, maybe even shorter than that, everybody will have connectivity. So that is another, that's really important, and that the whole Commonwealth has that ability. And we're going to continue to do that, make sure that happens.
Thank you so much, Delegate Kriezek. Next, we'll turn the same question over to candidate Maddox for his thoughts on maintaining access to virtual services for folks with disabilities.
Thank you. I am in agreement with the other speakers. I think that we have experienced one upside of the pandemic, which is better communications remotely. However, I'll put a spin on this. I do think that our legislators should be meeting in person as much as possible. And I think that people should be able to access them in person as much as possible. I think that technology certainly gives us a leg up in emergencies. And I think that for the disabled community, it's especially useful, and we should certainly keep up the kind of virtual access that we've enabled during the pandemic. But we really need to make sure that we have those in-person meetings, and that we're able to communicate in person, and that our legislators and other government workers are at their desks, so to speak, and doing their jobs as efficiently as possible. And I'll also mention that, I have a very good friend whose name I will not mention, but and whose company I will not mention, but whose company is deeply involved in the development of communications technologies specifically for the disabled community, making sure that the disabled community has alternative means of expressing themselves if they are deaf, mute, or otherwise. They're able to actually communicate through novel devices that are, essentially laptop devices that connect them with the rest of the world in a way that they previously have not been able to do. I would like to see more funding put into the development of those kind of technologies that enable communications for the disabled community. And like I said, I will certainly be an advocate for trying to find that kind of funding for technology development, specifically in Virginia. I'd like to see those new jobs come online in Virginia in the tech sector, which is huge here in this state. But I think it's a new sector that really has been understudied. So I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And we'll allow candidate Hammond to wrap up this question.
Okay, thank you. I agree that it's been such a benefit to be able to have this virtual setting in the last 20 months in particular. And I certainly would advocate that we build upon virtual capabilities. I think telemedicine is going to be something for the future. And kind of what I think about this is I think about this for low income neighborhoods. I think about this for some minority families that maybe don't have the same access to internet like we do and appreciate here in Northern Virginia. So for me, this is an area where certainly we can make progress and do better. You know, I often hear about the deadlines and the timelines that we want to establish more broadband. And I think about, you know, we've been talking about this for years, and this is one of the areas where I think we need some solutions-based people to get these done. We shouldn't still be talking about this. I don't want to be participating in another forum in another year where we're still talking about what progress can we make for broadband or internet access. And to the point, I think it's best for the caretaker to be able to make the call, whether in person or telemedicine or virtual is the better setting for them. You know, one thing I heard from some families where, you know, the positive to the virtual setting has been the time it takes to get someone in the car, the time it takes sitting in traffic that can sometimes agitate or make a situation worse. The benefit to virtual has been that of course decreases. But the flip side to this has been for the offices that have been closed and for those that need that personal interaction, that need that personal touch, they too have suffered. So I think it's best in the hands of the caretaker and the individual to decide, you know, which method would better suit them and their individual needs. But I 100% support making as much virtual access available as possible to residents of Virginia. But again, I want to make sure that this access is made across the board, covering different portions of Southern Virginia, Southwest Virginia, and of course, right here in our area as well.
Thank you so much. And now we'll change gears to a topic that some of our candidates alluded to in our opening. And we'll start off here with candidate Hayden. And now we'll talk a little bit about our caregiver crisis. So across the country, most definitely including Virginia, we're seeing challenges where families waited many, many years for a Medicaid waiver or struggling to use private dollars to hire a caregiver who can provide one-to-one life-changing support for someone with a disability, who can make the difference between whether or not someone ever gets out of bed or goes to work. But we are at the point where with rises in minimum wage and staffing challenges during COVID, our crisis has reached a crescendo. And we are having families who look for months and months and months without the ability to find anyone. And we're at the point where we're competing with fast food and retail restaurants for entry-level workers, for folks who we need to do real good caregiving and complex problem solving. So what do we do to address this incredibly critical need for caregivers for people with all kinds of disabilities across the lifespan? And again, first to candidate Hayden.
Okay, thank you, Lucy. There is a crisis. The workforce is struggling right now to fill in a lot of different areas, not just here, not just in healthcare. But fortunately for Virginia, there's a lot of money on the table right now. And some of that money was approved by the last session of the General Assembly. They passed a bill or allowed for $311 million to go for funding for community-based programs. I think that more money should be added to that. You know, I think they should add another $150 million to that program. I also know that we have close to $1 billion in the American Rescue Plan Act. That's a lot of money that's on the table that needs to go to this because it's such a high priority issue that's been neglected for so long. So, and in addition to that, you need programs, you need healthcare programs and education. You need people to come in, you need quality, skilled caretakers that earn the money that they get. So it's not just a matter of taking anybody off the street and giving them $15 an hour. It's having someone with the skill and the education and the knowledge to go in and have the ability to take care of people with special needs. So there has to be a component of education, training. There'll also be another component where there's more money put into the programs that are available and to make it a robust program where people want to get involved with it because of the good training and because of the valuable experiences that they have. And we haven't been doing that. You can't treat this like a minimum wage job. You can't compare it to working at Burger King or McDonald's. You have to have it in your heart to do something like this. And you have to vet those people. And you do that through education. And you do that through getting to know, letting them get to know what's going to be expected of them. And I think the wages will follow after that. And I truly believe that there is enough money in Virginia to do this, and there is enough concern at this point, and there is enough awareness, but there can be more of each of those. And I think that we are on the right track for that. And I think the money, fortunately, even coming through the pandemic, is there. And I just think it needs to be added to and reallocated a little bit, and make the necessary changes to get that going. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And now we'll turn that same question over to Delegate Kriezek for your thoughts on how we manage this caregiver crisis we're seeing in Virginia.
Well, my wife and I are the caregivers of my father, who's 94 years old and has been very fragile. And in fact, just before this started, gave him dinner, and I've been taking care of him for the past 2 months in a much more in a bigger way, I guess, than I ever expected. We moved them into our house 5 years ago to take care of them and to be there for them in their last days. And my mother just passed away, in fact, a couple weeks ago. And so I know, I'm acutely familiar with this issue, and I know exactly. And I thought I could do it by myself, and I thought I could have a job and be the delegate and take care of my parents with my wife's help. And she runs a small business, which she's had to shutter to be able to help. And I really appreciate all of her dedication. And she's a wonderful woman and great caregiver for my parents, not her parents, my parents. But they really are her parents. They love her dearly. And so we earlier in the summer, we finally kind of couldn't handle it anymore. And we got a caregiver for, a few hours a day. And we thought we could do it that very quickly. We realized we needed 8 hours a day. And quickly thereafter, it was 8 hours a day, all 7 days. We thought weekends we could handle it. And we've had a wonderful caregiver who's been a blessing indeed. And now we're up to 24 hours a day of help. And of course, they went into hospice care as well. So the hospice program is a fantastic program, and it's free. And the nurses come every few days and help. But you can't do it without these caregivers. And I know how important that is to the families that are listening today, how important those caregivers are. We need to value them and pay them, and to give them what they deserve. And they are working so hard to take care of our families, and they are part of our family as well. And so, I'm very proud of the start we've already provided in the General Assembly under Democratic rule in the last 2 years. In this last May 1st, we raised Medicaid reimbursement rates in the budget for agency and consumer-directed personal care, respite and companion services, in the home and community-based services waivers, and with early periodic screening and diagnosis and treatment, the EPSDT program. But I think it's 6.4%, and that goes up. I believe that either we've brought that up to 12.5%, or it goes into effect in January at 12.5. And I'm not sure. I remember we did something retroactively, but Delegate Sickles, who's going to speak next, really is the strongest advocate and most knowledgeable member of the whole entire General Assembly. We're lucky to have him on this Zoom call tonight, because he's the chairman of the Health and Human Services Committee, and on both, and also the one on the subcommittee that's on appropriations as well. And he's the vice chairman of appropriations. So he has been leading us to get more, to move this up, and working with the governor. I know we're going to have more increases, and we've also increased the state minimum wage. So one of the things that's happening is we've got to maintain that differential between the consumer-directed rest of state rate, right, and above the state minimum wage, and we also we have to maintain that differential between the Northern Virginia rate. And in fact, the Northern Virginia rate's too low; it needs to come up. So we're working on that. And as a member of the Appropriations Committee, I'm right there with my chairman, Chairman Sickles, in that fight to increase, to make sure those increases are in the final budget. But I know that Governor Northam has mentioned that that is something he is going to put in his budget. And as soon as the election's over in November, we'll see that. So I'm there for you. I understand how critical it is. And I, I think we've got the right people in the right place right now. So thanks for this question. It's very important.
Thank you so much. And please allow us to offer our sincerest condolences on the loss of your mother. I remember reading about her, and she seems like an absolutely amazing woman and a tremendous loss to our community. We'll now turn the same question over to candidate Maddox for your thoughts on how we address the critical need for caregivers.
Thank you. I certainly acknowledge the critical need, and like a few others, I also acknowledge that this problem of skilled workers is much broader than simply the caregiver, lack of caregivers in the state. We have a lack of police, we have a lack of firefighters, we have a lack of service personnel. And in recognition of that, I have conceptualized a new program called 4 for 4. The idea behind this is that if a student will sign up to do 4 years of service within the state of Virginia, they will receive 4 years of free education in Virginia, college education in Virginia. The idea is to create a pipeline of new personnel who will work in Virginia in these service capacities. So as skilled caregivers, as policemen, as firefighters, utilities, the whole gamut. It's something that's been missing in Virginia for a very long time. And I would like to complement that with increased funding for apprenticeship programs. There is a good apprenticeship program in Virginia, mostly in Richmond, but that needs to be expanded and it needs to be funded better. And I think we need to tap into the surplus that we're enjoying right now of $2.6 billion due to being overtaxed. I think that there is funding to kick off a program like this, and I think it will actually pay for itself, similar to a U.S. Army ROTC scholarship program genuinely pays for itself. So that's a very concrete idea to bring in more caregivers, skilled caregivers, and I think that would help a lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we'll ask the same question now of candidate Hammond about his thoughts on how we can address this caregiver crisis.
Thank you, Lucy. You know, this is personal for me because I have a mother who is 68 years old and she still works full time as a home healthcare nurse. I see day in and day out how her schedule shifts due to staffing shortages. I see how hard my mother is working at 68 years old due to the problem that exists with finding quality care for our individuals that are in need of medical services. You know, I'm a little perplexed as I keep hearing, things such as, we're fighting hard, we're working hard, we have the best experts on this call, but yet we're still having this problem going on in Virginia. So similar to what JD has mentioned, I know there are teaching scholarships where we say, hey, we'll pay for your education if you'll give the state a certain amount of time of teaching. We do the same thing with the Peace Corps. Hey, we'll pay for college education if you do a certain amount of time to the Peace Corps. This is a very easy, we have other strong programs that we can implement right here in Virginia today to incentivize the best students, the best medical professionals to come right here and work in Virginia, and we incentivize them. We help with those college costs. Maybe we help them with a certain tax credit if that's what it takes to get quality, sustained healthcare. I think with a combination of those things, that puts us on a footing to maybe make a dent in our standing in the nation, which is one of the lowest for healthcare workers as far as the staffing levels. Also, here in Northern Virginia in particular, we have a unique perspective in that we are a melting pot. We are truly a melting pot right here in Northern Virginia of some of the best medical professionals from all over the world. Why are we not using that leverage to incentivize them to stay in Virginia, go to other parts of the state, and we use their services that many of them come into DC to give or go into other Northern Virginia hospitals. We could incentivize them to maybe go out to Southwest Virginia or Southern Virginia or out in the Hampton Roads area or Central Virginia. So to me, this is a problem that doesn't take a whole bunch of legislative committees. It doesn't take a lot of working groups. This is a problem we could implement today to help bring the best healthcare representatives, the best professionals to give the care to our most vulnerable community, our family, our citizens, our neighbors right here in Virginia.
Thank you so much. And lastly, we'll turn this question over to Delegate Sickles, who's under no pressure to give a perfect answer after being queued up as the foremost expert in the state on this issue by colleague Delegate Kriezek. Take it away. Oh, we still have you on mute, Delegate Sickles.
Apologize for that. I thank Delegate Kriezek for his competence. I just want to remind people that for 20 years until a year ago, this General Assembly was controlled by right-wing Republicans. They controlled all the budget until a year ago. These are hard problems. If anyone thinks they're going to be solved overnight with a snap of your fingers, you're delusional. We have a candidate running for governor now who's doing better than he should, who's going to cut your taxes, cut your ability to be able to do any of these things and spend more money. He's planning to spend more money, spend more on education than anyone else, and cut your taxes at the same time. That is magician quality. So a couple of things. We are going to double the capability of Northern Virginia Community College to produce nurses. We have a nursing shortage. Private duty nursing, like possibly my opponent's mother does, we've raised their rates a little bit. It's still too low, but they're not enough of them. We're working on a problem. We have a loan repayment program now. We have a free community college program now for critically needed professions. I had a provision in this year's bill that for any healthcare worker that's been working in the COVID pandemic, to get free college education to pay them back some portion of our gratitude for what they've done through this pandemic to upgrade any kind of medical licensure certificate or degree that they need to get. So we are working on these things. We have this rescue plan, gentleman mentioned earlier, is one-time money. We can't responsibly to spend on ongoing costs. But we did use $700 million of it. We have more we didn't allocate yet for the broadband problem. Just a couple years ago, we didn't have any money in broadband. We weren't in charge, but we were spending $5–10 million for the entire state. We're going to make sure every household in Virginia has broadband by 2024. That is what we're going to do. So I welcome people to the campaign, but we're headed in the right direction, and I hope you'll stick with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And now we'll start again with Delegate Kriezek on a question, and we'll change gears here a little bit for something that is top of mind for the disability community and has been for a long time. And that's that we're seeing an increasing number of really scary interactions between people with disabilities and the justice system. For the Arc of Northern Virginia, this was an absolutely terrible summer. It felt like at least weekly we were getting calls, children being threatened with arrest and having a behavior crisis, adults with developmental disabilities calling for behavior help and being shot by police officers in Springfield, out-of-state parents trying to figure out why their adult children with developmental disabilities were being arrested and how to help them. And then this morning I got sent an article from a staff member who found someone who was deaf and didn't hear the police calling to stop him. And so they slammed him to the ground as soon as they approached him and put his hands behind his back so he couldn't sign to explain what was going on. So we have some real concerns, both not only how we keep our officers safe, because how do they effectively manage this situation if they don't know what they're going into, but especially when they do, how do we keep people with disabilities safe as they navigate police and justice interactions, especially in a crisis when there's no one else who has time to get there? So Delegate Kriezek, over to you first.
Thank you, Lucy. It is tragic, and it's senseless and is not necessary. So much of the interactions that you described are probably have many reasons for them, but one of them is a lack of knowledge and experience and education working with the disability community. And we need to make sure our law enforcement listens and learns from leaders like you, Lucy, and Connor and others who are out there and available. And I'm committed to that. I'm committed to equity, and helping those who are struggling, especially in the context of this pandemic. And I think that's put our nation under tremendous stress and pain and anxiety. And there's been many protests. It's not just the disabled community, but certainly the Black community especially has been a target of a lot of police brutality, frankly, over the years. And if it weren't for, again, technology capturing it on iPhones and things, we wouldn't even know about a lot of it. But last year we had a number of peaceful protests. It was great to see folks from the disabled community and others, determined. It was really a blended mosaic of young people of all races and all walks of life, and older people too, even coming together for reconciliation and racial equality, and also supporting our disability community as well. That was a moment last year, and it led us in the General Assembly to pass a number of social justice legislation, and we're working towards community policing. We ended the death penalty. I mentioned that before. Giving judges discretion to reduce charges, and after jury sentencing, eliminating mandatory minimums, and other laws to tackle structural inequality, and that I think is making a difference and will continue to. Here in Mount Vernon, we had a situation where it was clearly an individual was distressed. It was last April 2020, and the police. If you watch one of the tools that's really important is and something that I've been advocating for, and I will be putting a budget amendment in this year, is for body cams on all of our police and state police. We have them in Fairfax County now. They started, one of the pilot areas was our area of Mount Vernon, and last year we saw on the body cam a tragic event where the police officer with the body cam, in fact, you could hear him talking down. There was a young man who was walking around in a court. It wasn't even on the main street, so he was not a threat to anybody at the time, and there was plenty of police around, and they were talking him down, and it looked like everything was going smoothly, and then out of the blue, watching this camera, another policeman drove up, jumped out of his car, and just jumped on him and tased him, and didn't really give him much time at all. Now, that policeman no longer works for Fairfax County, and I give credit to the county for recognizing that. But that was a poor response to a mental health crisis, and we can do much better. We need to invest in social workers and counselors, and many times they are the ones who should be responding to these calls for help, and not police with tasers or with guns. And so that is where we're moving towards that direction. And I think I will continue to. My door is always open, and if I hear of anything happening, please and my constituents let me know, and I will talk to law enforcement and to state police, and we'll try to work to rectify the situation. But we need to we've increased the state police pay by quite a lot, 8%, I think, or maybe it's 12%. Plus, we've given them a bonus, which will be hopefully they'll be getting that soon. In fact, I was given an award last year as one of the legislators of the year by the state police, because of my advocacy for efforts to reform them and to help them and support them and to get them the resources they need to so that you don't have these kinds of issues. And of course, then we also have our local police throughout the Commonwealth and also the sheriffs and the sheriff offices too. So it's really a combination of factors, but it's something that shouldn't happen, and in most countries you don't see it happening in Great Britain as often. You don't see it in Germany. You don't see it in a lot of the European countries. There's no reason it should be happening here. So I'm sorry to hear about the latest. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we'll now turn the same question over to candidate Maddox for his thoughts about how we keep people with disabilities safe as they interact with the justice system.
Thank you. I can't agree more with what I just heard. I think that there is a tragic, uptick in the reporting of abuses against multiple communities of color, communities of disability, and we have to do something stark about it. I believe that one of the immediate solutions is increased training for police officers and how to de-escalate and how to handle some of these unusual situations. I also think we need to do a better job of screening the kind of personnel we're bringing into our police force. But I think a lot of this does boil down to the tactics that are being used by our police. And I think we also need to acknowledge, as future legislators and as legislators, that for every one of these horrible incidents that we're hearing about, there are 10,000 very positive incidents, resolutions of crimes, resolutions of bad situations that our police are carrying out. And I think that they really deserve our support. I think they're losing our support across the state by our lawmakers. And I think that really has to change. I think we need to give our police our strongest support, but also demonstrate that there is no wiggle room for misbehavior on the police force and really bring that home. I think that there's one other thing that nobody is talking about, which is unfortunate, which is simply that nobody has set out the rules for a social worker's or a psychologist's participation in intervention with the public. So if we are sending out social workers, sending out counselors, sending out psychologists, what are the rules for their participation in an arrest? What are the rules for their participation in healthcare following an arrest or following an intervention? Do they have the authority to institutionalize someone? Is that appropriate for the kind of people that are being considered for participation in these interventions and these police actions? I think that we need to take a very close look at this. And I think currently this is really being used as a political football more than anything else. And I think we need to take a breath, take a knee, and really think deeply about what we're talking about here, because I don't think that we are considering the third order effects of this new paradigm for arrests and new paradigm for social worker and psychologist interaction with criminals or with others in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll turn the same question now over to candidate Hammond about safe policing for the disability community.
Sure. Thank you for that important question, Lucy. And I will tell you, as someone who spent 8 years in law enforcement, we never like the fact when we hear of an unfortunate story, such as some of the cases or some of the instances that you described. I've been around law enforcement. I was in it for 8 years. I've been around it for 12 years total. Nobody celebrates incidents like that. But I want to give you a scenario of my time in DC. One morning in uniform, went with a coworker to go grab a cup of coffee. And as we were approaching this coffee shop over in the Farragut North area, gentleman who was having some type of episode, we weren't sure at the time, raises his voice. He starts elevating his voice towards this young lady who was just coming off of the metro as she's trying to make her way to Starbucks. He raises his hands and he was mistaking her for someone, but she didn't know him. You could see the fear on her face. And as he was going to ball his fist in that moment, we had to make a decision. What were we going to do? And for those that, question the tactics of police officers, should this person have been hit 1 time, 2 times, 3 times before we intervened? We didn't know what was going on. All we saw was the scenario that was in front of us. Now, the good news is, by the grace of God, he did not strike her, and the situation was able to de-escalate. That's the good news in this story. But I just want to kind of give those on the call, especially who have no experience in law enforcement, just kind of a snapshot in the split-second decisions that you're having to make on the fly. One of the things we know about law enforcement, whether it be through community policing, whether it be through any other areas, is they are willing to adapt. They are willing to adapt. They are willing to learn. They are willing to implement training to better serve the community. We've seen that at the county level here in Fairfax County. We've seen it at a state level, and we've seen it at a national level, that discussion that happens. Let me reiterate, cops do not like bad apples. They embarrass us and they make us look bad. So I think one of the areas to offer a solution is, it is amazing for forums such as this, we get full participation from every candidate. Well, you know what? Maybe we have a forum like this for all police chiefs, for all sheriffs. Maybe we bring in forums for multiple police agencies. We were just talking about the benefits of the virtual era that we live in now. Let's bring law enforcement together, not to demonize them, but let's bring them together to talk about some of these issues. I know through here in Franconia, there's a community action committee through the Fairfax County Police Department. And they have them in multiple districts, but in the district here, Franconia district, once a month, there is a call where anybody on the community can hop on, listen to what's going on here in the district, ask questions, so on and so forth. I can assure you, law enforcement would be willing to participate in a forum like this and maybe offer some insights into the current training that they currently have on the books for situations like this, and in areas where they can improve. So I think this is an area where someone who has law enforcement experience, also someone who is a minority, and I do not have a negative view of law enforcement. I think this is an area where I could be a bridge, and we could be a bridge to maybe make sure we're not steering people into fearing police interactions, but working with them. These are heroic women and men that have a thankless job, and they put their lives in danger, and they have to make split-second decisions. And it's easy to Monday morning quarterback those decisions, but these are true heroes that we're seeing. We're losing them in huge numbers because they just don't feel like they're backed and supported. So I would like to kind of put a different angle on this, and let's bring law enforcement together. Let's absolutely admit when there's some area that we can improve on, but let's acknowledge more of the successes that they do on a everyday basis.
Thank you. And we'll ask the same question now of Delegate Sickles about how we keep people with disabilities in a crisis safe in justice interactions. You are on mute.
Sorry about that. Good policing is hard. I know it's hard. I've been to the state police training facility. I've seen the use of technology that makes you make instantaneous decisions. We have about 330 or 40 vacancies in our state police now, and we're doing something about it. This year, we gave them an 8% raise. In 2021, we gave them a new benefit for moving. We gave them $100 a year for your service to work on compression. And then in this special session in August, we gave them a $5,000 bonus. So we are funding the police, and we're doing it because we want the best people serving here. And we also are in competition too. It's a real world economy. We have lost law enforcement officers that we've trained at the state level to Fairfax County in the past. We lose them frequently to federal law enforcement agencies. The Park Police is a place many go. And so we've become a good training academy for other agencies, and we need to stop that a little bit. We need a higher differential for Northern Virginia to pay in Northern Virginia. So there's things that we're doing that we can do now that we have the ability to make these decisions. Co-responding to a situation where some person is having a psychotic experience of some kind is very difficult. And we are working on the rules now. I really appreciated the issues that Mr. Maddox brought up. He is right about those things. We need to work and develop those things. It's not just us here, it's all over the United States. So we created a Marcus alert because of a tragedy that happened in Richmond, but we do not have the continuum of care in the communities. We have it here more than much of the geography of Virginia, but we do not have the continuum of care that we need to prevent tragedies ever reaching the situation where you need a Marcus alert. So this is a big subject right now of a lot of people working together, and we want to continue to make this the best place to serve us all in the law enforcement career.
Thank you so much. And then last to tackle this question will be candidate Hayden. You are up.
Thank you, Lucy. Yes, the police have an incredibly difficult job, no matter what, much like what Brenton was saying. Unless you walk in their shoes, you don't know what they go through. When they put their uniform, when he or she puts their uniform on in the morning, they don't know if they're coming home at night. They're putting their lives at risk for us, for our safety, to protect us. And we need to support them. I support the police. I don't support, my opponent mentioned a lot of buzzwords there: community policing, equity, social justice, these things. That's all defunding the police stuff, disinformation. We shouldn't do that. They didn't 100% support the police. They voted to cut the pay of sheriff deputies. They voted to take away qualified immunity from police officers, meaning for frivolous lawsuits, they can be sued. They're not supporting our police. Governor Youngkin and the new legislation, the new Republican majority legislation, will support our police. We will get them the training that they need. We will get them what resources they need to let them be able to enter these situations and enter them in a trained manner where they have the proper education and the proper training. They spend a disproportionate amount of time, on these emergency custody orders and transportation and things like this. And there's a lot of fixes that need to be done here. But what it comes down to is we really need to support them and to give them the resources they can to thrive and not leave the force, whether it's the sheriff's force, whether it's the sheriff's department, the state police, the county police. We need to let them know that we understand they're in a dangerous profession, that they face these critical decisions like Brenton spoke about. They're split-second decisions, and they don't always make the right decision. We're not perfect. I'm not perfect in my job. I make mistakes every day. I carry liability insurance, so if I do make a mistake, I can be covered for that. The police officers should have the same comfort level by having qualified immunity. I would never vote to take away qualified immunity from the police, as our Democratic colleagues on this call have done. That's a mistake. They know that. Paul's an attorney. I'm not sure if Delegate Sickles is an attorney, but that's something that you just can't have. So, there can be other elements to this. There certainly can be other areas where social workers and other people can intervene. We know that there are already procedures that the police have. They carry kits with them, things that they can work with people who are in distress to distract them, to de-escalate the situation. We need to have that across the board. But by the same token, we just can't abandon them in the job that they do. I'm grateful for the job that they do. I'm grateful that they put their lives on the line every day for us. I would never turn my back on them. I'd give them 100% of my support. And I look forward to doing that in January. Thank you.
Thank you all. And now we'll wrap things up with a chance for candidates to give a closing statement. And there are so many things we didn't get a chance to talk about tonight that we know are important to our families. The waiting list for Medicaid waivers we didn't talk about explicitly. Some great questions have been put in the Q&A box about how we make sure we support our service providers who are asking to survive on Medicaid dollars, also navigate the caregiver crisis and an incredible amount of bureaucratic oversight. How we make sure that everyone understands the range of disabilities. There was another great question about that in the Q&A box. So anything that you would like to share that we didn't get to tonight, or closing thoughts, we would be happy to have. And then candidate Maddox, you are up first this time.
Again, thank you so much for having me. Thank you to everyone who organized this event. I really appreciate the opportunity to think through these things with you and to get some responses to it. I hope that afterwards we get some more responses and that we're able to have a continued dialogue. I think we're touching on some really important issues. I think the policing and social work issue, combining those, is a particularly cumbersome problem, and that we all have to address as soon as possible. So I'm eager to take that to Richmond and try to find some solutions, along with solutions to the host of problems that we've brought up tonight. I regret that my opponent has not shown up tonight for this discussion. I think it would be great to show a little contrast in how we're approaching these issues. Hopefully she'll show up someday to one of these events. But in any case, again, I just want to say thank you. It's been a real honor to meet everyone here tonight and to participate with the active delegates and the other candidates for office. Thank you.
Thanks so much for being with us. And now we'll turn the closing question over to candidate Hammond.
Well, I want to echo JD's thanks. I want to thank you all at the ARC and the Autism Society, and again, all of those who participated in putting the event together tonight, and to our awesome interpreters who are doing a fantastic job. Thank you. And then to all the candidates, to include the sitting delegates and the candidates on this call, thank you for showing up to this important conversation. I think what we heard tonight are some ideas that I think we could build upon, but I think largely what we heard tonight are things like, stay with me and stick with us, and we're working hard and we're working on it. But I would ask to those here in Virginia that are a part of the DD community, do you feel like Virginia is here with you? Do you feel like they're helping you? I understand, as it was referenced, that things don't happen overnight and with the blink of an eye. But what I do understand is it takes people focused to get things done. And when we see in the state that certain legislation can be passed and then moved up to be implemented, where's our help for the members of the DD community? It's a shame that in the last several years, the medical waivers have doubled in number. And yet we hear that, yes, this is still a problem, we're working on it. What can we do to give the citizens and the residents of Virginia hope that we're taking this issue seriously, and we're going to actually put something to the test? Obviously, what we have been doing isn't working, so we shouldn't keep trying the same thing again. If every time I go to make a phone call on my cell phone, I don't have a signal or the call keeps dropping, I don't want my company to tell me to stick with me. I'm going to go find a new company and a new option to get a solution. So I hope that we can build upon this. I hope the next time that this forum is here, we've talked about the progress that we've made. We've talked about the way the medical waivers have come down. We're talking about the new services that have been made available to all members of the DD community, whether they be in a populated area or a less populated area, whether it be among minorities or not. And yes, even when it comes to law enforcement, maybe we have some law enforcement on the call and we're talking about ways we've worked together in the last year to improve, the interactions between the DD community and law enforcement. So I'm Brenton Hammond, and I'm running because I believe in solutions. I believe in getting things done. I believe in keeping things level with you and straight, not over-promising, but letting you know that I have your back and I'm going to get things done. So I thank you all for listening tonight. Again, thank you for this wonderful and fruitful conversation. And go to BrentonForDelegate.com if you'd like to learn more about my positions, whether it be on the DD community or anything else. Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us. And now we'll turn the closing question over to Delegate Sickles. Feel free to take it away. Oh, Delegate Sickles, we can hear you. Yeah, feel free to start whenever you're ready with your closing. Oh, video cut out. Speaking of the need for good quality broadband all over the state, right? All right, then we'll circle back to Delegate Sickles here in a minute. And now candidate Hayden, we'll put you in the hot seat right away. Feel free to give us your closing remarks.
Okay, well, Well, thank you, Lucy, and thank you to Sharon and Connor again for being such great hosts with us. We really appreciate it. You know, one of the things we do with the Knights of Columbus is when we do go out and do our fundraising, you'll see us out there with the yellow vests, and we give out Tootsie Rolls. So you'll see us in front of the local Safeway or the Walmart, and you know, that's one of the things we do. And it's not just a fundraiser for us. We're out there because we want to raise awareness. We want to raise awareness for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We want to raise awareness with people who have special needs. And it's an important thing that we've done for a long time in Virginia. And like I said, we've partnered with ARC before, and we'll continue to partner with them. You know, we also, you know, part of my particular council, that's from the Virginia State Council, but from our particular council in Mount Vernon, Council 5998, we also have a lot of charitable contributions that we give as a result of our successful bingo program, which is on Friday nights and the first Sunday of the month. That's a shameless plug, sorry. But all proceeds go to charity. And a lot of our charity money goes towards helping people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And as COVAR does and has done for a long time. So we're grateful for that opportunity. We understand the need for that. We understand the need for community-based programs. We know the list is very long for Medicaid waivers. It's over 13,000. Like Delegate Sickles said before, there's 3,000 on the emergency list. That number seems to never go down. We need to have more housing, for available housing in the community for them. That's one of the areas that we do is we assist with interest-free loans for group homes so that they can live in group homes and be contributing members of society and thrive and flourish. And that's our goal. I think we all have that common goal here, regardless of our political stripes. We all have that goal, is to help people in needs. You know, I respect life at all the different levels, and I won't go into the other levels. I'll save those for another forum. But the particular level here is that I respect the life of people with special needs, and we have to protect them. They are the most vulnerable in our community. We have a moral obligation to take care of them and to make them productive citizens, but also to show them the love and support that they need. And like I said, we're all God's people. We're all God's children, and without limit. And, you know, and I thank God for all the gifts I've been given. And I thank God for the opportunity that I can give back to the community. And that's why I'm running for office. That's why I'm running for the House of Delegates. I don't have to run for the House of Delegates. I could be home watching college football now or something. But I'm here because I care. I care about the community. I care about Northern Virginia. I care about my section of Mount Vernon. And I want it to be responsive to all the citizens of Mount Vernon. I want all the citizens to be represented in Richmond. And as your delegate, your new delegate in 2021, I will represent all of the citizens of Mount Vernon, from Old Town down to the mansion, out to the west side of Route 1, to the east side of Hayfield. I will be your representative in Richmond. I'd be glad to help you with your programs and to help Virginia become a better place to live for everybody. So thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. And Delegate Sickles, we will queue you up again, and we hope that you can hear and see us now. And unfortunately, all you missed was my terrible joke about broadband access. Go right to it.
Is it back to me?
Yes.
Thanks, Lucy. Thanks for doing this. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about some of the things we've done. If you talk to anybody in Richmond, they'll tell you that I'm a person who's working every day on solutions. I have my heart and soul in this job. I love it. As soon as I don't want to solve problems and make progress, I'm not going to run again. I promise you that. And so I look forward to continue working with you and all the groups that you work with, like Virginia Access and Jennifer Durr. You know, DMAS can be and DBHDS can be hard to understand sometimes. And we talked about bureaucracy tonight. I have helped to try to reduce the bureaucracy with credentialing and other problems that we've had. Burns and Associates is doing a rate study right now, as you probably know. I'm hoping and praying that the governor uses those rate studies in his introduced budget in December. We need to have a Northern Virginia differential that works for us, that providers can actually provide these services for what we're paying. And so I will be making sure that if they're not high enough, we'll do the best we can with our Senate colleagues to get the number up. access to everyone to healthcare is something that I'm all about. I've worked on the reinsurance program, on the Virginia Benefit Exchange, and other things to open up access to even more people. In the CCC Plus program, we are taking better care now, I believe, of people with disabilities than we ever have with that program. It's not perfect by any means. There's problems with it, but it is, we're merging those two programs with Magellan and CCC Plus together. We hope that will help bring the services that need to be prior to getting a waiver to the families that need it. So I'm in digging hard every day and trying to make life better for folks. We did give everybody a raise back to July 1. That is hopefully will be even further increased in this governor's upcoming budget. So thank you very much. I look forward to working with you. We've got workforce issues to solve. People who like to do the work that you do and that your heart is in, we need to make a way for them to have a career in this business, that they can stay in and stay helping people and not have to leave to do something else because we cannot pay them what they're worth. So if you'll support me, I ask for your vote tonight. I want to continue working with you. We are on the way to improving your situation after many, many years of stagnation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being with us, and we'll give the final closing remarks over to Delegate Kriezek.
Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, Connor and Sharon and everybody that's watching. You know, I'm a very proud public servant, grew up in this community in Mount Vernon and Lee, and attended all the public schools. And I'm really just honored to serve you in Richmond. And I'm very happy that we have opponents, and I'm glad Richard's running. I know he could be watching the Caps game. I know he's a big Caps fan. I just saw it scroll on my screen. It's 1-1 in the first period, but it is important to democracy and to our community that there's choices out there, and you have some clear choices, and that's a good thing. And so thank you again for inviting me to participate in this discussion this evening. I always learn a lot from these conversations, and that help me when I go back to Richmond to be a better ally for the disabled community and elevate your voices in advocacy. I have a record of success. I mentioned a couple of the bills that I've been successful in. I forgot another one back in 2020, which was HB 1043, which eliminated the carve out for individual and small group plans to make sure families covered by these plans have access to autism care. And that expanded health insurance for children with autism. And that was a big victory at the time. And I've got that record, and I've also got the seniority now, and I'm working with Chairman Sickles as well. I'm on the Health and Human Services Subcommittee on Appropriations with him. And we have great leadership in the General Assembly today, and we need to keep that going. And I encourage my constituents to reach out to me as they do with any issues they have, any ideas they have at all to make Virginia a better place. And any injustices that you see and that they see in our community, bring them to me so that I can do my best to put an end to it. And thank you very much. And it looks like we're just ending here at 7:30. Perfect timing.
Everything we do is perfect. Thank you all so much for being with us tonight. I will send some follow-up information to folks after this evening that will include the link to tonight's forum and some other information that was referenced. But one of the things I will send, since a number of folks referenced it, is on October 23rd, we are continuing our longstanding partnership with Fairfax Police to do practice police events where individuals with disabilities can practice traffic stops, either as driver or passenger, can practice walking stops where they pretend to approach the police and ask a question or for help, or police officers can practice approaching them and asking them for information, practice calls to 911, other kinds of things, since that in-person training, both for people with disabilities and police officers, is invaluable, of course. And I'll send some other information too. And if anybody puts a question in the Q&A about other things that we referenced tonight that they would like me to send, I'm happy to do it. Now it's my pleasure to give another closing moment here to Connor Cummings.
Thank you all for joining us Please be sure you vote. Candidates, thank you for sharing your platforms. I heard some good ideas. There are so many of us who are ready and willing to work with you to make this happen. We all have something to say, no matter how we communicate. Together, let's pass laws and get funding so we can all live a life like yours. Nothing about us without us.
Beautifully said. Thank you all so much for being here tonight.